Hello everyone, welcome back. I'm just making a quick video today that is going to explain more about how you separate out different types of readers, members, paid subscribers on Substack. So if you are someone that has a niche within a niche, I think that's probably the best way to explain it. If you know that you are trying to target a certain type of reader that is going to arrive to do a certain type of thing on your publication, but you don't want to box yourself in, I think this video will really help. Quite often people will say to me, shall I do it all under one publication? Shall I split them out? If you guys have watched any of my other videos, you might know that I have two separate publications and I have very clear reasons as to why. I do have a video on that if you want to watch that video. It's called Running Multiple Publications on Substack, so you can watch that. So this one is more of a deep dive into holding everything within the one publication, which is my advice. That's what I advise to do if you are arriving on Substack and you want to grow your Substack joyfully and sustainably. If you split your focus, it can be more difficult. The reason that I have two is because Substack was the best place for me to host a membership for Substack education. So it didn't make sense for me to run that membership off Substack because I'm teaching about the platform. It's got great discoverability. So it's quite a unique reason for having two Substack publications, and I stick by that. It works brilliantly for running a membership. And then my other publication is much more about wholehearted living and self-seeding your business. So I can do more blog style writing there, which I really enjoy doing. Anyway, I'll go ahead and share my screen, and then you guys can get some insight into how I organize the different types of people that land in my space. So here on Creatively Conscious, I've tried to keep it super, super simple. I had an issue for a little while where people were confused about the difference between this space and then Sparkle on Substack. So the branding is very different between the two. And I wanted to make sure that people felt that they were arriving somewhere that had that feeling of rest, tranquility, that there was time, that it was a different type of storytelling. So the whole publication is designed to help people feel like there's time to slow down. There are journaling prompts, like my tone of voice is slightly different here. But when you have a look at just the snapshot of how people are finding their way here, we've got a welcome and contents page and then very little else on the navigation bar. The podcast isn't actually a podcast, it's a series of voice notes, but I've just left that up because it can be nice for people to kind of discover people through their voice. So that's there. So this is built as a page. So when you build a page on your Substack, you find that in settings and you do not email that out. So there's no option to email it out. So you want to treat this as a navigation page, as a contents page, as a start here page, as a page where you're going to be able to link out to lots of different things. So for me, this one here is doing two jobs. It's both a welcome page and a contents page, so people can really easily scroll through and have a look to see where my publication is meeting anything that they might be looking for or where it isn't, and then obviously scroll off. So I'm introducing myself and I'm telling them that I've got the two spaces again because I was addressing that piece of clarity that was lacking for people, and I was hearing that a lot. I haven't heard it for a while, so fingers crossed I've cracked it. And a little bit of an introduction to me. Obviously, I'm constantly pushing the Substack app because I love it. And then we go into the contents here. So again, I've done it in a way where it's spacious. There are photos, like it's a little bit personal as well, so that people feel like they're arriving into my home, like coming, pulling a chair up at my kitchen table. There are some resources and replays, and then there is an invitation for people who want to self-seed their business. And I'll probably reorder these in 2025 because I've got lots more in this category now, and I'm kind of leading with this category now that I've been writing on it for about 18 months. I've got lots more that I want to put front and center. So it's really just inviting people to the types of things that they might find here. And then it reminds people that I've got a book out in the world, because I want to promote my book. I want to promote that I have written that and that it exists and people can buy it. So even though it's not the Sparkle on Substack space, that felt really important. So within this, if you're thinking about the type of people that you're attracting into your space, so I'm thinking about the type of people that want to take workshops with me. Now, these are all pre-records now. I'm not planning any live workshops in 2025, but this is really high value for people. Like if you are looking and trying to decide on whether to join someone's space as a paid member and they've got a really healthy archive of lots of resources, that can be a big decider. The names of these workshops are named in a way not to be confusing, but to attract the right type of client avatar into my space. So If somebody aligns with soulful storytelling, then that's great. If they're aligning with, okay, so we're going to do some class around Instagram to Substack, then that's great. And so as I develop and evolve this publication, these will shift and change. I'm going to put in more creativity classes that I've got in the back office and all that sort of stuff. So there's really a place for you to think about here. There's a business owner who wants to be soulful and guided and wholehearted and creative. And then there is a person who doesn't have a business but is interested in creativity and vision boarding and that sort of thing. So there's two main types of people that end up on this publication. And I just literally show them the two different routes here. At the moment, when people pay for this publication, they can pay for the paid post archive, and then they can pay to access all the workshops. So there aren't any workshops here for free. What there is for free is my monthly email. So when I am writing a post that I know is going to be for paid members, I don't always send it out to everybody. What I'll tend to do is I'll tend to send a preview every other post. So if somebody is in the free camp and they want to think about moving over to paid, that they get that little highlight. And then probably about twice a year, I'll send an email to all my free subscribers telling them what the benefits of being a paid subscriber are. So I just recently did that, and the results speak for themselves. I'll show you because I'm super proud of how this all went. And I know people like to see dashboards. So it's saying 59 over 30 days. So it was saying 70. So I had some free trials expire, but there was 70 new people that came into this publication over the Christmas holidays. It was a really busy time. And obviously all of those have gone green, which is always like a thumbs up. Thanks so much, Substack. Thanks so much, Wizard of Oz, whichever one has made it all happen. No, I'm joking. It's all strategic, but it depends on the energy that you plug in and the messaging that you're putting in front of people. So that's why I separated out. So I don't tend to bother my free subscribers every time I email my paid subscribers. I just do that every other time so that they get that highlight. It doesn't annoy people too much. Then I send the big email a couple of times a year, maybe 3 times a year, to say you can join as a paid member. That will encourage lots of unsubscribes as well, and that's fine. You know, people could circle back. They could realize, oh no, actually, like this isn't what I need right now. It's all good. So I think thinking about your content strategy and how many times you're going to put your paid work in front of your free subscribers is really, really helpful. You also need to be thinking about your content blocks. So if you've not taken my Instagram to Substack class, it's in the Sparkle on Substack membership. You can access it on Creatively Conscious as well. And it's a really helpful class to work through content buckets and know what it is that you're saying to people. So here on Creatively Conscious, there are 2. And there's also like a secret third one really that is about that kind of piece of self-expression. So that if I want to do something, like I've just published an anthology here, and it's really a passion project. So it's like space where I feel like if I feel called to do a passion project, like if I want to do another big collaborative project around International Women's Day, then I will. So what I would do is take a plain postcard and a set of post-it notes. And on the post-it notes, you want to write out all of the topics that you talk about. And on the postcard, you want to give that a header. And then you attach all of those post-its to that header. And then keep going with that with your postcards and with your post-it notes until you feel like it makes sense. Then you want to add much, 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 much more clarity to those headers and use those headers on your Substack publication. So like I have here, self-seed your business. Now that is still a bit whimsical, but I'm allowed that, Anna. So the titles tend to be a little bit clearer. And I wanted to have that because I wanted to have some mystery and some intrigue, like what's life if not fun with a little bit of intrigue? I just think it's nice. And then I've got my notes from the sea, which again, it's really obvious in the title, but that is my monthly free email. I've got Big Dreams and Quiet Ambition, which are my guest posts. I've got another one of those to do this month. So that all feels really balanced. When people click into your archive, it should all feel really cohesive. And this is where, if you've asked me a question around niching within a publication and it's all over the place here in terms of somebody's reading it and they are a specific type of person. So for example, imagine they're a new mum and they've come here for solidarity and support postpartum, and then you're speaking to male business owners on how to run a business. I don't think those two things would exist together, but you get what I mean. It's going to put those mums off because they're in that cocoon of going, I just need a safe space. So you really have to think about if the crossover is okay and acceptable and people are just going to scroll past if it's not for them, or if it's going to alienate people and put them off and confuse your message. And if it's going to do that, then my advice wholeheartedly would be to start a second publication and brand it up completely differently. If you just need to drill down and organize it a bit better, you can have sections. So let me go in and show you the sections on Creatively Conscious. So when I set this publication up, I was still learning how to kind of organize everything. So some of it I wouldn't do this way now, but I'll just say how I've done it. So when I started talking about Substack originally, my messaging was called Stay Creative on Substack. And I didn't want to annoy people that were signed up for my slow lived Northumberland life and creativity posts. So I started a new section. And that is a brilliant thing to do if you know that it is something very niche. Now, because that's still there, I can take it out, but it's obviously good to demonstrate. I can show you in Manage Subscription. When you scroll down, people can toggle that off. So there's no post going out under that section anymore anyway. But if they were like, no, Claire, I don't want to start a Substack. I'm not really interested in what you're chatting about. I'll just turn that off. That would be super, super easy to do. Now, in reality, the people who are subscribed to me, I know are interested in all of that stuff. So that's why I didn't need a section, and I think at the time I was just kind of separating things out and wondering if I would have a section for free subscribers and then everything else were paid and just playing around and stuff. And I've never kind of changed that. But I think the one person who comes that is interested in what I write about would potentially be, 99% they would be interested in all of this stuff. So there's nothing for them to toggle off. If you are inviting people to toggle a section off, most people will not do that piece of work. They just won't because they're overwhelmed by Substack. They're not sure how to do it. Some people will, and you can always re-invite them at the top of every post. You're going to have to screenshot this and show them how to do it, or make a little video like this to show them how to do it. So if it's really important to you to have a section that people can toggle on and off, you've got to do the work to show them how to do that. Otherwise, they just won't do it because Substack is just a rabbit warren of magic and settings and all the things. And people are like, section what? Or so, yeah, I think just put that work in and understand how you want to manage people and ask them to do that. If I go on, I'm trying to think. Yeah, I'll go over here on Sparkle just to show you another way of doing things. So for this, because it's a huge membership site and I've got the 2 tiers of membership and I have free subscribers as well, I've got a start here that addresses everybody who's interested in Substack education. And then in that, it kind of filters people into different places depending on what they're interested in. The A to Z is just for the members. So feel free to have a click through these things because this will then help you to try and understand how to best design your Substack website. When you design a page, when you design a section, when you design a tag, you get a URL. So a URL is so helpful because you can weave that into your welcome emails, to your about page. You can put it in your headers and footers so you can help people to navigate. So my A to Z is in my footer, my email footer, and then I will also mention it now and again in posts because obviously some people are reading in the app, so they won't get the footer. So it is something to think about. You don't have to do all of this work now, but I think just putting that work into the navigation and understanding how your ideal customer, client, reader is going to navigate your publication is really, really helpful. So going back to my advice at the beginning, as long as it's not going to put somebody off massively and you're talking to 2 completely different types of people, I would keep them all within the same publication, but just be mindful how much you're sending one set of messaging over another set of messaging. Sections are great, or you can literally do a post like this and then post in one of your posts that you haven't emailed out. So if you feel like you don't want to email them out, but you're building up a collection of posts that speak to a specific niche. So for example, take my friend Hannah as an example. So she has a space called Divorce Alchemy. So it's for women who are currently embarking on divorce or going through divorce, or who have recently been through a divorce, who want to come together in solidarity. So that's not going to be for every type of woman. But her overarching content is around love and self-love and all of that beautiful stuff around taking care of yourself. So I'm not planning a divorce from my husband, but I would still subscribe to Hannah and support our work, not just because she's my friend, but because I can see that there's a message in there for me as well, and that her work can cater to me. So I think there is lots of different ways of thinking about it, and it's not a one size fits all. You've got to actually do the work on the post-it notes and work it all through. So I have 3 client avatars, 4 Sparkle on Substack and 2 for Creatively Conscious. And I know those people so well. As soon as someone emails me, I know which client avatar it is, and I know how I'm going to be able to best support them and guide them. That takes time to understand, but there will be some things that you know straight away about if you're thinking about separating out a section or niching down, there'll be something that you know about the person that that work is for. So hopefully that's helpful and that gives you a little bit more clarity on how you can try and organize your Substack publication and try and help people navigate it. Substack give us so many options, and that's actually a really good thing. But once you lean into what decision you want to make, then you can just stick with that. I always say stick with it for about 3 months, see how that's feeling, look at all your stats in the dashboard on those posts, and then you can change it up. So one of the key things with any of this work is that it feels good to you. So I can obviously show you as many examples as I've got, but I think whatever feels good to you, do that and make sure that it's super clear. Because if someone's coming to your space for the first time, we want them to feel invited and clear, not confused. We want to make sure that they feel like you understand who they are and there's that natural connection between your work and words and them being a reader and then jumping into paid. One of the big things about running a paid for space on Substack is there are multiple different ways to do that. And so once you know that and you lean into, okay, is this more of a membership? Is this a paid subscription? Is this an access all areas pass? Which one is it and why? Then it will be easier to build out from there. If you've not seen my free posts around how to organize your homepage, everything is in there. There are videos in the A to Z of the membership if you're unsure of how to do content blocks and organize it in such a way that it speaks to people and it feels really clear. Remember, when you send out a post, ask yourself that question: what do my readers need from me to go deeper into my publication? So it's really easy to read a post and just scroll on to the next thing. But if you're giving them a gentle call to action where it is actually something that they would want to do. So for example, in my footer, like everything's in the A to Z, that's going to cut my customer service and has cut my customer service down because I'm saying, look, it's all in the A to Z, have a look. There are other things that you can do with that as well. But just think about that before you click off. As you're doing your edits, what do you want to invite people to do to go deeper with you and on their journey within your Substack publication, and wider than that, your work in the world as well? Because Substack is a real kind of gatekeeper to the rest of the work that we do. So whether we're there writing or whether we're there space holding, there is other work that we are doing and other places that we pop up off platform. So I'm going to leave it there, but I hope that was super helpful. If you've got any more questions, members, I'm in the chat each week on a Monday, so you can come and chat and ask me anything, and you can ask the community anytime, 24/7. And for everybody else out there, I am wishing you so much luck, creativity, inspiration for your Substack publications in 2025. I hope you have a brilliant year. And it's been really nice to come back and make this quirky little video that was something that I think it was just my members were puzzling over. And I thought, right, I'm going to do a little video about that. If you've not yet got my book, I should say as well, How to Build a World-Class Substack is available wherever you get your books. This is my well-thumbed copy. And it's a great beginner's resource to understanding Substack as a platform and understanding how myself and my co-author Russell have utilized the platform to build the growth engines that have felt really good for us on the platform and to also monetize our Substacks. We are both Substack bestsellers and we approach our work in wildly different ways. And I think the contrast is super helpful for you as you're starting out and understanding what Substack as a platform can be to you. I'll leave it there, but thanks so much for watching and I will see you guys really soon.